She wasn't old enough to buy a drink. She wasn't even allowed inside most casinos. But when the cards hit the felt in 2007, one teenage girl from Norway walked into the lion's den of European poker legends and walked out with a world championship bracelet and $2 million. Her name? Annette Obrestad. This isn't just a poker story. This is the real-life tale of how an 18-year-old girl turned a mouse, a monitor, and nerves of steel into a weapon of mass destruction at the World Series of Poker Europe. While the world dismissed her as just another internet kid, she annihilated a battlefield of hardened professionals, surviving one of the toughest tournament fields in modern poker history. She didn't just beat the pros, she embarrassed them. She ran multi-street bluffs. She made fearless all-in shoves with nothing but ace-high. And when the dust settled, she wasn't just the youngest WSOP bracelet winner ever. She was the most feared player at the table. So, how did she do it? How did someone barely old enough to crush some of the sharpest minds in poker? Let's rewind the clock and dive into the epic story of how Annette Obrestad changed the game forever. It all started far from the bright lights of Las Vegas. In a small Norwegian town, Annette began playing online poker at just 15, under the screen name Annette_15. She never deposited a dollar of her own money. She won free roll after free roll, grinding her way up the online ranks with a ferocious, hyper-aggressive style that left even seasoned veterans stunned. She played thousands of hands a week, her specialty, outplaying opponents with sheer guts and instinct. Annette once famously claimed she could win an online tournament without even looking at her cards, and then proved it by doing just that, using reads on betting patterns alone. But live poker? That was a different beast. In 2007, the World Series of Poker expanded across the Atlantic for the first time. The inaugural WSOP main event in London attracted some of the biggest names in the game: Gus Hansen, Phil Hellmuth, Daniel Negreanu, Annie Duke. And walking into this war zone was a teenage girl with zero live tournament experience and a passport that still had her high school photo. Many players dismissed her. They didn't know who she was, or worse, they did know, and laughed off her online achievements as flukes. Live poker, they said, was about presence, about body language, about knowing the rhythm of the felt. Annette didn't flinch. From day one, she made her mark. Her aggression was immediate and relentless. She opened her hands from every position. She 3-bet light. She floated on air and turned it into gold. She forced older, more experienced players into folding premium hands because they couldn't figure her out. Her first major scalp? John Tabatabai is a feared pro with deep tournament chops. In a massive pot, Annette shoved all in with a flush draw, no pair, no made hand, and forced a fold from Tabatabai, who later admitted he had no idea whether she was bluffing or a genius. That became the theme of the tournament. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Midway through day 2, Annette suffered a brutal cooler. She flopped top 2 pair against a hidden set and lost a massive pot. Her stack was cut in half. For most players, that would mean spiraling into tilt, but not Annette. She buckled down and began rebuilding, hand by hand, bluff by bluff. At one point, she re-raised all in over a pre-flop raiser with 7-2 offsuit, the worst starting hand in poker. Her opponent folded ace-queen face up, and the table gasped. Annette smirked, raked in the pot, and never showed her hand. Psychological warfare? Mastered. Her table reads were uncanny. She knew when players were weak. She sensed hesitation. She exploited fear. Against pros like Dave Devilfish Uliot, she employed timed pauses, stare-downs, and reverse tells to mess with their rhythm. One pro said later, "It felt like she was inside my head." As the tournament reached the money, the pressure intensified. The final table was a murderer's row. Seasoned pros, multiple bracelet winners, and one teenager who looked like she'd just finished a math exam. But it wasn't the pros who led the table. It was Annette. She entered the final 9 as the chip leader, and then she put on a masterclass. She started day 4 by busting a well-known pro with pocket kings. She slow-played the hand to perfection, trapping her opponent into moving all in on the turn. Cool, calm, clinical. She then busted 2 more players in back-to-back hands, widening her chip lead. It was domination. But the true test came head-on. Annette versus John Tabatabai, her old nemesis from day 1. This was no pushover. Tabatabai had clawed his way back into contention and was ready to go to war. The two traded blows in a grueling back and forth. Tabatabai used position, he changed gears, he played back at Annette with semi-bluffs and delayed c-bets. For the first time, Annette showed signs of pressure, tanking on the river, asking for chip counts, and breaking eye contact. But then, just when it looked like the momentum was slipping, she struck. John Tabatabai is on the button and makes the call. Annette Obrestad raises to 100,000, and Tabatabai calls. The flop comes 7 of clubs, 6 of clubs, and 5 of hearts. Obrestad fires a bet of 250,000. Tabatabai responds with a raise to 750,000, and Obrestad moves all in. Tabatabai makes the call. He reveals 5 of spades and 6 of diamonds for 2 pair, but Obrestad has the top set with pocket 7s, the 7 of hearts and the 7 of spades. The turn brings the 2 of clubs, leaving Tabatabai drawing dead, and the river falls as the queen of hearts. As heads-up play continued, Annette didn't let her massive chip lead make her complacent. She shifted gears, adjusting her aggression, sensing that Tabatabai was looking for a counterpunch. Instead of continuing her bulldozing style, she began setting traps, limping with strong hands, inducing bluffs, and forcing her opponent to second-guess every move. On one particular hand, she limped in with pocket 10s. Tabatabai raised, likely thinking she was weak. Annette flat called. The flop came low and ragged. Tabatabai bet again, this time more aggressively. But Annette, cool as ever, simply called again. Her silence and stillness at the table were weapons in themselves. The turn brought a face card, which emboldened Tabatabai to shove, believing she had missed. Annette called instantly and turned over her 10s good enough to crush his airball bluff. It wasn't just about cards. It was about control, momentum, fear. Even commentators and spectators noted how quiet the room became when Annette entered the pot. Seasoned players hesitated, not wanting to tangle with the fearless teenager. Her unrelenting poise created a psychological chokehold. Every time she put chips in the pot, it felt like a dare. Go ahead, call me, I dare you. And behind all of this was the staggering truth. Annette couldn't legally play in a U.S. casino yet. She was just 18, still considered a child in many parts of the world, but commanding the table like a general on the battlefield. Annette Obrestad, 18 years old, had just won the first ever World Series of Poker Europe main event. She beat 361 players. She took down a $2 million prize. And she became the youngest bracelet winner in the history of the game. Annette's story isn't just about poker. It's about breaking barriers, age, gender, geography, and proving that talent, guts, and relentless work can shatter even the oldest traditions. She didn't wait for permission. She didn't ask for approval. She walked into the arena and took what was hers. Her win sent shockwaves through the poker world. Suddenly, the old-school live pros had to reckon with a new generation, young, aggressive, unafraid. And for young women everywhere, her bracelet was a symbol that they didn't just belong at the table, they could win at it. If this story blew your mind, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more epic poker legends, and tell us in the comments, what's your favorite Annette Obrestad hand? Or better yet, which player should we cover next? Because sometimes the biggest wins come from the least expected places.